It's the question each and off season Michigan detractors seem to cling to and Michigan faithful seem to cringe to, but it needs to be asked. And, of course, this program is right on the cusp. Talking Michigan football, we got Von Lozon on the line from Mason Brew. Please check out him and the rest of the staff there at SB Nation as they cover Michigan athletics across the board. And, of course, March Madness is here. Von, we appreciate you stopping by. How you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing well. How are you, sir?
Doing just fine. And, of course, Shea Patterson is gone. He had plenty of critics. He had a decent year at Michigan, certainly rallied the team against Penn State. It was hit or miss with him. Maybe some quick thoughts about Shea Patterson's final season at Michigan before we dive into the competition this fall.
Yeah, well, I think his time in Ann Arbor, he was hyped up coming in to the 2018 season as he transferred from Ole Miss. I think a lot of that hype comes from the fact that Michigan didn't have a very good quarterback situation in 2017. The year prior to him coming to Ann Arbor, Wilton Speight got injured in the fourth game of the season, injured his back, never came back, obviously. John O'Korn was very up and down. Brandon Peters got injured in that season, went back to John O'Korn, went back to Brandon Peters. So the situation was all over the place. So the hype was definitely is strong for Shea Patterson coming in, to say the least. Him being a five-star quarterback, he was one of the top-ranked guys in his class. Going to Ole Miss, then he transfers to Michigan. Put up some pretty good numbers statistics-wise, but never really got that signature win that they were looking for, whether it be against Ohio State or one of the bowl games. They lost both bowl games with Shea Patterson in there. So overall, I would say he had a pretty good career, and definitely not something that Michigan fans are hoping for. Michigan fans are hoping for college football playoff berths, Big Ten championship berths. They haven't really got any of those up to this point with Jim Harbaugh, and they definitely didn't get it with Shea Patterson. So overall, pretty good tenure, but we'll see if one of these new quarterbacks coming into the mix can deliver a Big Ten championship and or more, possibly a college football playoff berth. We'll see.
Yeah, as you mentioned, the 9-3s and 10-2s will not cut it at this point for Michigan football, paying Jim Harbaugh right at the top of the heap of college football, the legacy, the history, and the expectations, of course, there at Michigan. So elite programs, and Michigan's on the cusp, typically have elite quarterback play. Shea Patterson didn't deliver that necessarily, but again, put up some decent numbers. But now looking for the guy, Dylan McCaffrey seems to be the guy that most people think will win the job. I know Joe Milton also in the mix.
Yeah, it's kind of like one of those 1A, 1B things at this point. No one really knows who's going to be the starter heading into even just spring practice. Dylan McCaffrey was always the first guy to come off the bench whenever Shea Patterson either got hurt or they were up so much that they didn't want to get him hurt. So he would usually come in right in relief. Joe Milton would follow him. And Cade McNamara is kind of the dark horse in the race. He's going to be a redshirt freshman this season. So at this point, it's kind of a 1A, 1B with Joe Milton, Dylan McCaffrey. They're going to be battling out neck and neck for probably the entire spring and entire summer as well. It'll be pretty interesting to see the competition heat up. And it'll be interesting to see how they play things out with this spring practice that they have open to the public here next month. We'll see who really gets more reps than the other guy. At this point, I would imagine McCaffrey would, just because he's been with the program a year longer than Joe Milton, but Joe Milton does have a lot of upside too. He's got a cannon for an arm. He displayed that numerous times over the last couple seasons at Michigan. And McCaffrey's been injury prone. He's been nicked up here and there. He had the nasty concussion last season, and then he ended up breaking a collarbone 2 seasons ago against Penn State. So we'll see. A lot of it's going to be riding on the health of each guy, but it'll be a pretty heated competition, I would imagine, heading into the fall.
Dylan McCaffrey, of course, with a great legacy in his family of accomplished football talent. We don't have to go through that. If you're not familiar, certainly look it up. But it's right there. It's on the NFL stage right now with maybe the best player at his position, and it goes back to Denver Broncos Super Bowl championships. McCaffrey, the 5th-rated pro-style quarterback coming out of Colorado, the connection there to his father in regards to why in the world is he playing one of the best players in the nation in Colorado, which doesn't produce great high school football talent. Joe Milton, 9th-rated pro-style quarterback in his class out of Florida. So, Vaughn, based on we've seen very little. You mentioned the garbage time statistics for both. Not anything that we can really gather of meaning from there. But based on what you've seen on tape, what you know, based on people that you trust in regards to their scouting reports, is there a guy that you would favor?
Honestly, I think these two quarterbacks are similar and different in a few different ways. I think McCaffrey's more built around this RPO game. I think he's really fast. And they were talking about that, I believe, at the NFL Combine. Our Trevor Woods from Maize and Brew, he wrote up an article on it about how people were talking about how Dylan McCaffrey is one of the fastest guys on the team. And that's saying a lot for him being a 6'5" quarterback. It'll be pretty interesting to see how they use both him and Milton offensively in this open practice that they got next month. But I think McCaffrey's probably more built for the RPO. I think he would deliver pretty well running the ball. He's shown it multiple times. He had a 75-yard rushing touchdown called back against Nebraska, I believe it was a couple seasons ago. So he's definitely shown his wheels. Milton, however, he's quick in his own right, but the arm talent that he has, I think, is what sets him aside from the other guys in the competition right now. He can really sling the ball. You look at these videos from when he was in high school, he was launching 60, 70-yard passes with ease, and he's been doing that at Michigan as well. He had a really long pass completion against Ohio State in 2018. I believe it was to Nico Collins way deep down the field. So these two guys they're definitely different. It'll be interesting to see how they're used in this open practice, and we'll see if one of these guys can set themselves apart from the other.